For centuries, sailors crossing the Atlantic Ocean whispered about monsters, tentacled beasts that could drag entire ships beneath the waves. Serpents longer than cathedral spires, creatures so massive they were mistaken for islands. We told ourselves these were just stories, the ramblings of superstitious men who spent too long staring at empty water. The Atlantic Ocean has a way of taking ordinary animals and transforming them into something that looks like it crawled out of a nightmare. The deeper you go, the worse it gets. Creatures start losing their eyes, their jaws unhinge, their teeth grow so large they do not even fit in their own mouths anymore. It is as if evolution looked at the Atlantic's abyssal depths and decided to make everything horrifying. And the most terrifying part? Many of the mythical monsters that haunted sailors' nightmares were actually based on real animals. The Kraken was not invented by drunk Vikings. It was their best attempt at describing something they genuinely saw, something that is still down there right now, hunting in total darkness more than 1 mile beneath the surface. So what is it about the Atlantic Ocean specifically that creates these monsters? And why do the creatures living in its deepest trenches look more alien than anything we have found in outer space? Let's start with what makes the Atlantic different from other oceans. The Atlantic is home to the Puerto Rico Trench, which plunges over 27,000 feet below the surface. That is deeper than Mount Everest is tall. At those depths, the pressure is crushing, about 1,100 times the pressure you feel standing at sea level. If you somehow teleported down there without protection, you would be compressed into something roughly the consistency of chunky soup before you could even process what was happening. But pressure is just the beginning. There is also the complete absence of light. Below about 3,300 feet, sunlight does not exist anymore, not even a little bit. You are talking about perpetual midnight. Animals down there have not seen the sun in millions of years. Their ancestors have not seen the sun. At some point, evolution simply decided that eyes were optional and started experimenting with other designs. The temperature hovers just above freezing. Food is incredibly scarce. Most deep-sea creatures survive on what scientists call marine snow, tiny particles of dead organisms, fecal matter, and other organic debris that slowly drift down from the sunlit waters above. Imagine if your only source of nutrition was waiting for dead things to fall from the sky. That's the deep Atlantic's version of a food chain. Under these conditions, animals don't just adapt, they transform, and the Atlantic Ocean has produced some of the most disturbing examples of deep-sea evolution ever discovered. Take the giant squid. This is probably the creature most responsible for the Kraken myth, and honestly, it's not hard to see why. Giant squid can grow up to 43 feet long. They have tentacles lined with hundreds of serrated suction cups that can tear flesh. Their eyes are the size of dinner plates, literally the largest eyes in the entire animal kingdom, designed specifically to see in the pitch-black depths where they hunt. For most of human history, we only knew giant squid existed because of the scars they left behind. Sperm whales would surface with massive circular wounds covering their bodies. Those wounds were evidence of battles fought thousands of feet below, where no human could witness them. We found beaks in whale stomachs, tentacles washed up on beaches. Actually seeing a living giant squid in its natural habitat did not happen until 2004. The Atlantic Ocean kept this monster hidden for centuries. And here is the really unsettling part. We still do not know how big they can actually get. The largest specimen ever measured was 43 feet, but that was a dead one that floated to the surface. The ones that never surface, the healthy adults that stay in the deep for their entire lives, we have no idea what their size limit is. Scars found on whale skin suggest there might be squid significantly larger than any we have ever documented. But the giant squid isn't even the most disturbing cephalopod in the Atlantic. That honor probably goes to the vampire squid. Despite its terrifying name, this creature doesn't actually suck blood. What it does is arguably weirder. The vampire squid lives between 2,000 and 3,000 feet deep, in oxygen-starved water where most animals would suffocate. It survives by having the highest oxygen-binding ability of any known cephalopod. When threatened, it does not shoot ink like normal squid, because it does not have ink sacs. Instead, it turns itself inside out, exposing rows of fleshy spines while shooting bioluminescent mucus at its attacker. The mucus glows and sticks to whatever touched it, essentially turning the predator into a neon eat-me sign for everything else in the darkness. Evolution looked at this creature and decided the best survival strategy was to vomit glowing slime and then flip its entire body inside out. And somehow, this has been working for 300 million years. The Atlantic is also home to creatures that seem specifically designed to haunt your nightmares. The viperfish, for instance, has teeth so long they do not fit inside its mouth. They curve upward past the fish's own eyes. When the viperfish closes its jaw, the teeth form a cage that nothing can escape. It hunts by hanging motionless in the darkness, using bioluminescent organs along its body to attract curious prey. Then it strikes, impaling whatever was dumb enough to investigate with needle-like fangs that would make a saber-toothed tiger jealous. And get this, one species of viperfish, Sloane's viperfish, has fangs so large that the fish literally cannot close its mouth without puncturing its own brain. So it just swims around with its mouth permanently open, teeth jutting out in every direction, looking like a living bear trap. Then there is the fangtooth. This fish holds the record for having the largest teeth of any fish in the ocean relative to its body size. If a human had proportionally sized teeth, they would be about 9 inches long. The fangtooth's teeth are so enormous that it evolved special pockets in the roof of its mouth, so the lower fangs have somewhere to go when the jaw closes. These pockets extend into sockets on either side of its brain. The fish has literally rearranged its skull to accommodate its murder weapons. The fangtooth cannot see well, its eyes are tiny and basically useless, so it hunts by bumping into things in the darkness and hoping they are edible. It does not even chew its food because those massive teeth are not designed for cutting. They are designed for trapping. Once something is in that mouth, it is not getting out. The gulper eel might be even stranger. Its jaw can open wide enough to swallow animals larger than itself. The mouth takes up about 1/4 of the eel's entire body length, and it can stretch out like a pelican's pouch. It essentially functions as a living net, scooping up whatever happens to be floating nearby. The rest of its body is basically just a long whip-like tail with a glowing tip that attracts prey. Scientists have found gulper eels throughout the North Atlantic at depths from 500 to 3,000 meters. They are not rare. They are just impossible to see, unless you are willing to go down there with them. And nobody is. But perhaps no creature demonstrates the Atlantic's monster-making capabilities better than the animals that inspired sea serpent legends. For hundreds of years, sailors reported seeing snake-like creatures undulating through the waves, creatures dozens of feet long with bright red crests running down their bodies like some kind of aquatic dragon. They weren't lying. They were seeing oarfish. Oarfish are the longest bony fish in the ocean, reaching lengths of over 50 feet. They're silver and covered in a layer of slimy mucus. They have bright red dorsal fins that run the entire length of their ribbon-like bodies, resembling a mane or crest. Their pelvic fins are long and oar-like, which is where they get their name, and they swim by undulating their bodies in a serpentine motion that looks exactly like how legends describe sea serpents moving. Oarfish live at depths around 600 feet, sometimes diving as deep as 3,000 feet. Humans almost never see them alive. The only time they surface is when they're sick, dying, or disturbed by underwater earthquakes. So when ancient sailors saw one, probably a dying specimen that had floated up from the depths, writhing weakly at the surface with its red crest flashing, of course they thought it was a monster. It looked exactly like one. In fact, some researchers believe oarfish may be able to sense seismic activity through their elongated bodies, which could explain why they sometimes strand themselves on beaches before earthquakes. The deep ocean was literally sending warning messengers to the surface, and we interpreted them as demons. The frilled shark is another Atlantic resident that blurs the line between prehistoric monster and modern nightmare. It looks like it was designed by someone who only had a vague description of what sharks are supposed to look like. It has the body of an eel, the head of something from the Jurassic period, and a mouth containing 300 teeth arranged in 25 rows. Each tooth has 3 needle-sharp points, shaped like tiny tridents. The frilled shark has barely changed in 80 million years. It was already this terrifying when dinosaurs walked the earth. Evolution essentially treated it as finished and moved on. It hunts by striking at prey like a snake, swallowing prey half its own body length, whole. For most of human history, we thought frilled sharks were extinct. We kept finding their teeth in ancient rock formations and assumed they had died out with the dinosaurs. Then, in the 1800s, someone accidentally pulled one up in a fishing net, and we realized they had been down there the whole time, hiding, waiting, eating squid in caves at 4,000 feet below the surface, while humanity convinced itself they were just fossils. So why does the Atlantic produce so many monsters? Part of it is simple physics. The extreme conditions of the deep ocean, the crushing pressure, the freezing temperatures, the complete darkness, and the scarcity of food force evolution to get creative. Normal survival strategies do not work down there. You cannot be fast because there is nothing to eat, and you would burn through your energy reserves in hours. You cannot rely on eyesight because there is no light. You cannot afford to be picky about food because meals might be months apart. Deep-sea creatures develop strategies that seem alien to us, but make perfect sense in context. Massive jaws and expandable stomachs let you eat whatever you find, regardless of size. Bioluminescence lets you create your own light to attract prey or communicate with mates. Extreme longevity lets you survive through long periods without food. Some deep-sea creatures can go years between meals. The giant isopod, for instance, is essentially an underwater pill bug the size of a football. These creatures can survive 5 years without eating. They just sit on the seafloor, doing absolutely nothing, waiting for something dead to fall from above. Then they gorge themselves until they can barely move and go back to waiting. One captive giant isopod in Japan refused food for half a decade before dying, seemingly just to prove a point about patience. Deep-sea gigantism is another adaptation that creates monster-like creatures. In the food-scarce depths, larger bodies can store more energy and travel farther to find mates or food. The colossal squid, found in the deep southern Atlantic and Antarctic waters, can weigh over 1,100 pounds and has rotating hooks on its tentacles instead of suction cups. It is essentially the giant squid's bigger, meaner cousin, the one that does not just trap prey, but actively tears it apart. The Atlantic also has unique geography that concentrates deep-sea creatures in certain areas. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge, the world's longest mountain range, runs down the center of the ocean floor and creates a variety of habitats at different depths. Hydrothermal vents along this ridge support entire ecosystems based not on sunlight, but on chemical energy from the Earth's crust. Tube worms over 6 feet long cluster around these vents, surviving temperatures that would kill most organisms by hosting bacteria that convert toxic chemicals into food. These vent communities have existed for hundreds of millions of years, essentially unchanged. They were there before dinosaurs, before complex life existed on land, before anything that we would recognize as an animal walked on the Earth's surface. The Atlantic has been cultivating monsters since before there was anyone around to be afraid of them. And here's the really unsettling thought. We've explored less than 5% of the deep ocean. Most of what we know about deep-sea creatures comes from specimens that were accidentally caught, washed ashore, dead, or happened to drift past the rare submarine camera. The healthy, thriving populations that never surface and never get caught. We have almost no idea what they look like or how big they get. Every deep-sea expedition discovers new species. Many of them look like nothing we've ever seen before. Some of them don't fit neatly into any existing categories. The big fin squid, for instance, was captured on camera for the first time in 2007, drifting through the Atlantic with arms over 20 feet long, bent at bizarre, elbow-like angles. We've never caught one alive. We've never studied a full adult. We only know it exists because of grainy footage from deep-sea cameras. What else is down there that we've never caught on camera at all? The Atlantic Ocean spent millions of years turning ordinary animals into creatures that look like they belong in mythology. The kraken, the sea serpent, the monsters that populate ancient maps and sailors' nightmares. They were not invented. They were described by people who saw glimpses of a world we are only now beginning to explore. And those descriptions, as terrifying as they were, might actually have been understating things. Because the real monsters do not surface. The real monsters do not wash ashore. The real monsters are still down there, in trenches we have not mapped, at depths we can barely reach, living in conditions that should be impossible. The Atlantic did not just inspire sea monster legends, it earned them.